Here with me is Nehemiah Bester. Go ahead and say everything that you do.
How you all doing? My name is Nehemiah Bester. I am a senior here at Radford University, majoring in production technology, well, majoring in media studies with a concentration in production technology. I have a minor in political science. Pretty active on campus. I'm the president of the Diversity Awareness Programming organization on campus, which is the largest multicultural organization on the campus of Radford University. I'm also a brother of Alpha Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and a list of other things, but we don't need to go all into that right now.
So Nehemiah Bester, he is the blackest person that I know, and um, and today we're gonna be talking about black movies. I was originally gonna call this video my problem with black movies, but I'm not sure about that anymore because I want this to be more of a conversation than a rant. Um, so to get into it, Nima, what do you define as a black movie? Because I've heard that Django Unchained is a black movie, but then also like Medea is a black movie. Like, what do you think a black movie is to you?
Okay, so when I immediately think of a black movie, a couple of things comes to mind. I mean, whenever I hear that, like first I'm like, okay, question like, is this truly a black movie? So a couple of things I look at. Okay, is it culturally geared towards black people? Is it ethnically geared towards black people? What's the cast like? Who's the director? Who's writing the script? Who's behind the camera? Who's doing the editing process? Like, what makes it a black movie? Is it stereotypically a black movie? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are the true intricacies that really make this up, so that you can call it like a black film or a black movie? But I mean, to me, pretty much, a black movie is something that is geared towards black people, but also created by black people.
Right.
Like that. That to me is what really encompasses what a black film is, what a black movie is, and I think that's pretty much the best way to define a black film.
Got you. Do you think that a black movie has to be about blackness in general? Like, Black Panther is not, and Django. Well, no, Django is about blackness, but like the Medea movies aren't necessarily about blackness, and they just take, and like Barbershop, they take place in the black community, and it's mostly black cast. But do you think that black movies have to be centered around the people being black, or just blackness in general?
I would say yes.
Okay.
I would say yes. I mean, when you look at, I mean, okay, in terms of film, if you look at Birth of a Nation, I mean, that is pretty. I mean, it's not geared towards black people, but no doubt it's about black people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're about the KKK, Southern Confederates, all of that. I mean, black people are in, well, not even in white people are in blackface, but
Yeah.
I mean, when I think about something like Black Panther, I mean, it seems to be like that is a black movie.
Right.
Like that is no doubt a black movie. It may be different from other movies that we've seen, such as Tyler Perry's Medea saga, or anything geared towards that. But I think I could say that a black movie needs to have black people in it,
Yeah.
and it needs to be in some way or another geared toward the ethnic group that is what blackness is. I don't think you can call. I mean, I think a lot of times, like, a movie can just be a movie, and it's a shame that we have to call black movies black movies. I think that's like a total injustice within my major, within your major, within our industry. The fact that we need to specifically target, or like title movies as being black in order for them to be a black film. I think that's pretty unfortunate. But I also think that those are that is what makes up a black movie: black cast, black director, writer, producer. I mean, and there's no exact formula. There's no
Right.
exact measure for that.
Yeah.
But I think that after seeing a film, you can it's pretty easy to identify it. Is this a white movie? Is it a black movie? What's the demographics? What's the target audience? Using that as a formula, you can pretty much associate it. Okay, is this a black movie or is it not?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to get into like a lot of specifics real quick. I mean, just like off the top of my head, like what you were saying, because like I just heard someone say that Django Unchained was a black movie, but it doesn't have a black director or a black writer. It's written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, who is a straight white guy. So like I don't define that as a black movie really. It's revolves around Django's blackness, but I don't really define it as a black movie per se. What do you think?
Well, okay, follow up. How would you define it then, the movie?
I don't know. I feel like it's just like historical fiction, but obviously a black movie can be any kind of genre. So yeah, I don't think I define it as a black movie. I think it's just a historical fiction movie that is centered around blackness, but there's only so black that a movie can get if it's written and directed by a white guy. And obviously they say, I'm not supposed to say it on the air, but they say the N-word a lot in the movie, and that's written by a white guy. And like, I forgot which comedian it was. It was either Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle, but they said that they have a real big problem. No, actually, scratch that. It was Spike Lee.
Yeah.
He said that he has a really big problem with the use of the N-word in all of Quentin Tarantino's movies, because it's said in a lot of his movies, but it's written by a white guy. It's mostly, I mean, and it's said, like, Leonardo DiCaprio says it, and he's a white guy. He's a slave owner in Django, but then like there's also on the other side where Samuel L. Jackson is in those movies and Jamie Foxx is in those movies and they're okay with it, and Samuel L. Jackson even came out like when Spike Lee said that, and he says that he's okay with it. It's cool. It's all done in the context of the movie, but like I'm still not sure how I feel about it, honestly. Yeah, I mean that's all I gotta say about that, I guess.
So my take would be, I think that it depends on the director. It depends on the focus of the film itself, their vision. Like what do you want to come out of this film? And one thing I will say, I really appreciate Quentin Tarantino. He's actually one of my top 5 favorite directors, because he actually does a great job of flipping the script. In Django, for example, you don't. So I love the scene when you have the KKK rally and they're about to go ride on Dr. Schultz and Django, and they're just so ignorant and they're just so dumb, and like and it's the small things, like they can't even put proper eye holes within their clan hats, and it's just like one of the funniest, like you wouldn't even think about that, but it's like I love his take on it, because even if Quentin Tarantino is not black, I think that he is an ally in terms of film. I mean, I don't think every black film needs to be made by a black person. If it is, great. We need more people in the industry. But I honestly thought it was wrong for Spike Lee to come out against Quentin Tarantino, because just because Spike Lee is black, doesn't automatically mean that it's in the historical context. I mean, I think oftentimes people try to water down the N-word. Yeah. I mean, and let's call it what it is. I mean, that word was used historically, and if you're using it in historical context for a film properly, you know what I'm saying? He used the term properly. I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio. I remember I was reading something that he felt very uncomfortable with using the N-word as a white man. Right. But then it was Jamie Foxx who came up to him and was like, hey, I need you to say this word. I need you to be as aggressive as possible, because if you don't, people are not going to really see the brutality that that is associated with a slave master. So I need you to be I don't need you to tiptoe around this word. With this word, I need you to fully mean what you say and mean it within your heart, because then only then will people really grasp the full meaning of the brutality of a slave master. You know, if you water down this word, people were going to think that, you know, slave masters were kind, they were nice to their slaves, they treated them, you know, as family, you know what I'm saying, rather than property. So he needed to be brutal, and I think you know, Quentin Tarantino had that in mind, and I mean, not a shame, but you know what I'm saying, Jamie Foxx and Samuel Jackson, I don't think that if they weren't okay with it, they would have even agreed to the movie itself.
Right.
But I mean, I think that the context in which Quentin Tarantino was using those words was extremely beneficial, because white people are very uncomfortable with watching that movie.
Yeah.
And I understand it, but that's the problem with people, because we need to, I mean, imagine how we feel. Imagine how uncomfortable black people feel.
Yeah.
And this is just a pure, you know, I mean, it's a slight dramatization, but this is actually kind of an accurate representation of, you know, the struggle of a black hero, a black slave hero, and, you know, kind of reminiscent to Nat Turner in a way. And I think that the fact that people feel uncomfortable about it is their own problem, quite honestly. Right. I mean, we've been uncomfortable for years, and you're comfortable about a 2-hour movie. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that seems kind of silly. Yeah. And let's call it what it is. Nobody wants to be associated with being called a racist.
Right.
But we have racists within our society.
Yeah.
You know, and if there is something historically that is depicting, you know, that side of history, we need to depict that in the right way. The N-word was used all the time, okay? Yeah. All the time. Blacks were brutalized all the time. We don't need to water that down. We need to actually display, do history its justice, and call it for what it was. I mean, it was brutal. It was savagery. It was completely uncivilized to, you know, enslave other human beings, but that's what happened. So regardless if the director is white or black, I think if he has a good enough focus and a good enough vision on the film itself, and is trying to use it to promote this conversation, that yes, race can sometimes be an uncomfortable topic, but it's a topic that needs to be had nonetheless.
Right.
I was talking with some students earlier today, and they were expressing how they oftentimes, when they're in the classroom outnumbered by white students, they whenever a topic, you know, such as police brutality, or, you know, the disenfranchisement of black Americans, or slavery, whenever that's addressed, automatically the white people in the room feel uncomfortable. And I was just telling them, well, you know, they should feel uncomfortable. Right. But if they do, that's not your fault. Yeah. Okay, their fault at that point is to listen. Yeah. So what I was saying was, you know, just continue to make them feel uncomfortable. I mean, that's the only way. You don't try to appease, don't try to back or water down your culture to appease someone else's. Yeah. You know, that would be a complete unjust act towards your own specific culture, and you shouldn't allow anybody to compromise your culture for theirs. So if addressing that problem is going to make them feel uncomfortable, then they need to look into themselves. They need to figure out, okay, well, what is it that I may be doing? Why does this make me feel uncomfortable? And maybe pull that black student to the side and actually try to engage in a conversation where that can expand your intellectual curiosity and maybe make you more, accepting or understanding of that person's identity, of that person's culture, of their skin tone, of their complexity, and of their complexion. So I think that's just really important, and I don't think we should try to deter from film that makes people feel uncomfortable, because that's what it is, and we need to address it. Because if we don't address the problem, we only exacerbate it, yeah, which can only lead to further disenfranchisement and further isolation.
Yeah, I mean, totally right. I agree with everything that you said. One of the smartest people I know. I have a question, and I have a concern with black movies, which is one of the reasons why I was making this video in the first place. For me, there becomes a point when a movie becomes just pandering toward black people. Like I feel like the Medea movies, for the most part, are pandering toward black people, pandering toward that black stereotype of what they think, what Tyler Perry and his producers think that black people want to see. And like I told you a little bit before this started, I feel like, I kind of feel like the Medea movies and Black Panther are the same in the pandering aspect, but also the packaging is just different. Because Black Panther was obviously made for a black audience, and comes out in Black History Month. But the reason behind this is to exploit the black audience, get money from them. And like, I looked it up on IMDb. 1 out of the 7 producers are black. So 6 out of the 7 are white. And obviously I don't know how much a role each producer had. But I really feel like when it comes down to it, they are the same. And I mean, I have had some friends that saw Black Panther last night, and they told me some like really bad jokes. I mean, I feel like I shouldn't spoil something. Okay, I might spoil 2 jokes since they're taken out of context.
Yes, I haven't seen the movie.
They have nothing to do. They have nothing to do with the plot. And this is taking them out of the context of the movie. But they make a SoundCloud mixtape joke in the movie, which I feel like is pandering, and it plays onto, hey, do you remember this Black Vine trend that used to be a thing? And there's also, oh no, that was I'm sorry. There was there was a SoundCloud mixtape joke, and then the second joke, which I just started talking about, was a "What are those?" What are those reference. And like I said, this is taking it out of the context, but like, I feel like those are pandering toward the black audience, trying to make them laugh. And it's like, hey, you remember this? And like, hey, this is a thing. But like, it doesn't, I feel like it, obviously I haven't seen the movie yet, but I feel like it's taking it out of the world. Like, I feel like those characters wouldn't say that, for one. And 2, those jokes most likely aren't needed. And 3, I mean, like, Ryan Coogler is such a he's a much smarter writer, director, than those jokes. He co-wrote the film, and like, for Creed, he wrote Creed and Fruitvale Station, and those movies are amazing. And like, I'm pretty sure Creed was nominated for an Oscar for his writing. So I feel like I don't know where those jokes came from. Like, maybe someone is an uncredited writer on it and they threw in those jokes. But I feel like to get back to my point, I feel like there becomes a point where some black movies are just pandering toward the black audience, trying to exploit them and make money off of them. And they play toward the stereotype, even if they are made by black people. Like Tyler Perry, obviously, right? He writes and directs all of his movies, all of his Medea movies. But I feel like they also exploit and pander toward the black audience and those movies aren't good to me, by any stretch of the imagination, mostly because of that. Anyway, stop talking. What do you think? Like, do you think that there is a point where they become pander, or like, have you seen that in any black movies?
Yeah, I've seen that quite a lot, actually. Well, first thing, Tyler Perry's movies are not good. That's just not. I mean, I respect Tyler Perry. I think he was very groundbreaking, but I think that what you're getting on is that, he has continued to suit this pseudoscience need of a black audience, where we have to be, there has to be, a drug dealing baby mother, or some damsel, some black damsel, and then gets rescued by a black man or whatever the case may be. I think that has been just exhausted in his film career. Not that I still respect him, but his movies are really bad. I watched Boo 2 the other day, and it was just cringeworthy.
Yeah.
I don't know what. Let's not talk about that.
Yeah. but like, well, I'm gonna cut you off for a second, and I'm sorry. I hope you can keep your train of thought. But like, that's the thing. I feel like one of the things that keeps down black people are movies like that, and like stereotypes like that. He's using those stereotypes in the movie that are played out and, like you said, exhausted out. But since black people are given these Tyler Perry movies that are such low quality, and we aren't given many black movies. And the thing is, since we aren't given so many black movies, we go see most of them. Like, we go see the Tyler Perry movies, even if they aren't the best. Most people do, because obviously they keep making them. And
Yeah, because black film is associated with mostly Tyler Perry.
Exactly, which is super sad.
Yeah, and
super unfortunate.
It is.
Like, we need more we need more filmmakers and more movies like Get Out or like Selma or Fruitvale Station, Creed. Not even necessarily like, I don't even know if I qualify as Creed as a black movie. But in a way it is, but like, I'm super glad that it's not really defined as a black movie by society. And I think that's what was one of the reasons why it was able to break through that threshold, and make so much money and get so much critical acclaim. And obviously, and it was just an amazing piece of filmmaking. But anyway, I hope you can get back to your point. Sorry, I just had to.
No, yeah, yeah. So we're talking about like pandering and everything.
Yeah.
So like specific, like the Black Panther death. So those jokes,
yeah.
For example, so I think it's also important to note that Ryan is one of 7 producers,
right?
And I'm pretty sure. I'm not a scholar in this. I'm not, but I think that he has already gone through so many battles with just the industry and like making sure that it's 2018 and this is the first like mainstream black superhero movie like
in this age, really.
Yeah, like in this era, like that's crazy.
Yeah. Because there was like Blade and such, but that's not of this era. That's not of the superhero.
Yeah, we're talking about like this new generation. Yeah, this is like the first one.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he's gone through so many battles even to get this, to make it this far.
Right. And
I think, it sucks, but maybe perhaps he compromised a little bit just to have those jokes included, because those. Like when I hear those kind of jokes, I immediately think black. I do. Like, what are those? Like, oh, like I understand it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Maybe he had to compromise. I think he is an intelligent enough producer and director and writer. I'm pretty sure that. I've heard the movie is just fabulous.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that was just something that he was just, you know what, I'm just gonna bite the bullet and let them put the stereotypical jokes in here because I need this movie to hit the shelves. There's been so many issues with film in general where the production studio gets in the way of the movie.
Right.
We saw that. We see that right now with how everybody on the Han Solo movie, like the directors were fired. You know what I'm saying? Like but we still don't know all the details of that, but it was studio interference. They wanted something that the directors didn't want. The directors weren't folding, so they were like, "Oh, you're fired." Yeah. So, and I would hate for that to happen to something like Ryan. I would hate for that to happen. So I don't know. I still haven't seen the movie, so I guess same. I'll probably we'll probably judge it better when we see it. Like, oh, you know what, that was actually I don't know about, you know what I'm saying? But maybe once we see it for our own eyes, we can judge a little bit better.
Yeah. I think that my problem with most black movies, I talked about this briefly before the video started. I think my problem is that I feel like black people were being showcased instead of included. Like, I want I want there to be inclusion. I think that black movies are a good way to start, but I don't want to just be given black movies. I want more people. I want more movies like Creed that are seen by the mainstream audience that aren't typically seen as a black movie, because most black movies, they don't break through the threshold like Girls Trip and like Get Out did with the box office numbers, or like Straight Outta Compton. But like also, I like that black audiences aren't being taken advantage of like I originally thought that they were. Because like Straight Outta Compton was an amazing movie, amazing piece of filmmaking, highly claimed critically, and made a lot of money at the box office. So then it seems like All Eyes on Me, the Tupac biopic, it tried to mimic that. Obviously, it wasn't that good, and I'm glad that black audiences saw that, and they didn't flock to it, and it didn't make as much money as All Eyes on Me. And I don't want to be given crap, and I don't want black audiences to be served crap and just get used to eating it. And like that's my biggest problem. Like All Eyes on Me, honestly, like I work in a movie theater back home, and those theaters were packed like the first 2 weeks, but then word of mouth got to it, and everyone that saw it knew and said that it wasn't good to their friends. So that stopped that. But I mean, I think my problem with black movies is I don't want to be stuck to just black movies. I want to be included in the mainstream movies that are typically white, but they're not called white movies. They're just called movies. Like I don't want the stigma of black movies, because most white people won't go see black movies unless it's like Get Out, which is highly critical acclaimed, made a lot of money, and word of mouth got to it. And like Get Out, like Jordan Peele, like this was the first movie he's ever wrote or directed, and no one knew that this movie was coming. And like, but comparing those Black Panther jokes to like Get Out, there were no, from my memory, there were no black jokes in that movie about like SoundCloud or like what are those? Because I feel like that movie was, I don't know, I feel like that movie was smarter than that, but like I'm also holding Ryan Coogler to those standards because, like I said, Creed and Fruitvale Station were above and beyond. Right. So I just expected more from him. Right. But I didn't really give you anything to say there. No, it's
I want to take it back real quick to when you were saying like the whole conversation of like white people coming out to see movies or coming out to see black movies. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that black people should get used to being served crap and like eating it and enjoying it. But I do have a sense of pride whenever I hear the term black movie. I really do. And I don't think it's the goal of a black movie to want white people to go see it. Like, right. I don't think we should even have to compromise and even appease white people like, oh, that's a black movie, so, you know what I'm saying? I mean, because movie in general is just, like, has always been white. Right. You know what I'm saying? And though that is a shame, I mean, it's the same conversation of, you know, white people always asking, okay, why is there no White People History Month? Yeah. You know, it's every other month.
Or white entertainment television.
Yeah, like you have all these other things. So I take the same way I take pride in Black History Month, it's the same way I take pride in, you know, a film being called a black movie. Right. Because it's extremely rare to have that. And I think that we all should really take pride in that and not try. Like, the mission is not for white people to come out and see these movies. The mission is for these black people to come out and see these movies. But on the flip side of that, it also should not be for the exploitation the exploitation of black people. You know what I'm saying? People should not just be dishing out, oh yeah, we're gonna get the white pocket, we're gonna get white money and black money out of this movie. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna exploit these blacks, give them this trash movie, such as All Eyes on Me. You know, that movie is bust. And you know, I think that stuff like that is definitely wrong. That should not be happening. But you know, if we were to just automatically assimilate into the industry of whiteness, you know what I'm saying? I think for right now, I mean, I have no problem with a movie identifying as black. But then also realize that everything that's black is not gold. I mean, black directors make mistakes. They make sometimes they make terrible movies. I mean, just like any other director. But I mean, I do see that there's a sense of pride in myself and need for a film to be identified as being a black film. I mean, that to me is just very prideful, and I can feel that like within my heart and within my soul. And I think that I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Even if the movie is trash, which some movies are, I do think that it is essential to have black movies the same way it's essential to have a Black History Month.
Right. Yeah. And I totally agree with that. One thing that I wanted to bring up, I can pull it up here if you haven't seen it, but did you see it was about 2 years ago at the Oscars when Chris Rock hosted? He did a video where he said he went to Compton to a movie theater and stood outside, and he interviewed black people and asked them if they saw any of the movies that were nominated for Best Picture that year, like Manchester by the Sea, Bridge of Spies, and Spotlight. And when I was watching those Oscars live, I felt super uncomfortable because I'm not sure what Chris Rock's intentions were with that video, but it made black people look stupid. Most black people said that they didn't see any of the nominees, and then some of them were like, "Oh yeah, I saw Straight Outta Compton though," and that leaves us. I feel like it's detrimental to the. I mean, I feel like it's really bad for the conversation to make it seem like only black people only go see black movies, because obviously that's not true.
Right.
And if it were true, there would be a lot more black movies than there are now. There wouldn't be just like one or two or three made a year. There would be way more. There would be more of the mainstream. And like I said, that's what I want is for black movies to become part of the mainstream. I want black people to be included. And like I said, I feel like I thought about this last night. I feel like Get Out is kind of part of the problem, but it's also trying to solve the problem at the same time, because it talks about race in the movie, and it was a very personal story to Jordan Peele, and I can totally identify with that story. I can relate to Chris, the main character, but it's also not helping the problem of movies only having interracial couples. The only movies that are about that contain interracial couples are about the plot revolves around interracial couples, like Get Out, right, and like the movie Loving with Ruth Negga and Joel Edgerton that came out 2 years ago. But I want more movies like this movie called It Comes at Night, which also starred Joel Edgerton from Loving, and he had a black wife in that movie, and they had a black kid together, or mixed kid together. And then there's another movie called The Invitation, black woman, white guy, main couple. Like the whole plot doesn't center around them at all. Like the whole movie, no one says anything about them being an interracial couple at all, and that's what I want. But I see where what I'm saying is talking about, but what I'm not trying to say is I don't want race to be talked about, because obviously I'm not one of those people that say oh, race, like racism will just go away if you don't talk about it, and like
Right.
why are you always bringing up race? But like in the context of those movies, I really loved having that inclusion because you don't see interracial couples on screen that much, and it's you. I mean, unless the movie revolves around them, like Loving and Get Out. So I want more movies like that. Like, can you think of the last movie off the top of your head with an interracial couple in it that was like the main couple or like the focus of the movie
I mean,
without it revolving around the plot?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, it wasn't a movie, but I mean, I know on Power there's an interracial couple.
Oh, right,
And,
yeah.
I mean, and interracial just doesn't mean black and white. You know.
Yeah, true.
The Amari Hardwick, the character Ghost, he's in a relationship with a Latino woman.
Right.
You know. I mean, so yeah, interracial just doesn't mean black and white.
Right.
But I mean, in terms of black and white, probably. I mean, I think Get Out was probably
Yeah.
the latest one.
Yeah, and
I've
that
seen.
the plot revolved around them being an interracial couple.
Yeah, yeah.
So I feel like my problem with black movies is I think that black movies are a good start, but I think that I want to be, and I still want black movies to exist, obviously, and still be getting made, but I want them to be, I want black people to have more roles in the mainstream,
Right.
in mainstream movies, like, I don't want their roles to be revolving around their race.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to say? Or that you can think of right now? I know you said that you might have to go.
Yeah,
Because I mean, I could.
I'm just excited to see Black Panther tonight. Honestly, that's that's like my big thing on my to-do list.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a crazy day, but I'm just really excited to see that. I can't wait to see how, this the first black superhero within mainstream comics. I like seeing him on the big screen.
Yeah.
Like as a leading role, in Civil War he was more of like a supporting role. You know what I'm saying, very minimal film time, but I can't wait to see like Wakanda. I can't wait to see all these great like Denai Guerrera. I can't wait to see Michael B. Jordan and all them in these like black empire kingly. You know what I'm saying, roles. I can't wait to see how this. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
I'm excited to see it too, and I hope that they do him justice, and I hope that the movie is as good as people say it is, because like I said, Ryan Coogler has hit it out of the park so far, and it seems like he really nailed it with this one.
Yeah.
So, but I gotta see it to believe it, and I hope, because it looks like he has done a good job, but like I said, can't judge it on without seeing it. But if that's all you guys say, and that's all. I know that you gotta go. I know I got more to say. I don't want to keep you because we could be talking about this for hours.
Right.
Anyway, Nehemiah Bester, blackest person I know, one of the smartest people I know. Thank you so much for joining me and doing this video with me. I'm glad that I got to have a different perspective instead of just ranting through the camera. Thank you so much for having this talk with me.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been
Thank you,
great.
and thank you for watching. If you like this video and you want to see more, subscribe and give me a try. Let us know in the comments below if you have any different opinions on what we said, or if you agree, disagree, you hate this video, love it, whatever. Anyway, thank you, and bye until next time.